What I'd like to do today is to talk about a parenting curriculum that actually Jane Schatz and I were asked to do for the family courts in Los Angeles and for the administrative office of the courts in California. And it was a long time ago. I can't even remember when we did it. But what Margaret Little asked us to do was put together a 12-week program for folks who had been involved in domestically violent relationships to work on parenting issues when they have to co-parent with each other, which we know in the state of California they do. And in fact, most states they do. So Jane is kind of an expert on, well, she is an expert on child custody. She does 730 evaluations. And I was brought in for domestic violence. So what we tried to put together was a curriculum that looked at issues that most curriculums don't look at, which are issues of working on anger, issues of empathy, issues of gender, and then combine that with issues of divorce and the impact on kids, the impact of domestic violence on kids. So we put together 12 weeks. Neither one of us believe in 12 weeks when you're dealing with domestic violence. So every kind of lesson or session is kind of chock full of stuff that you can use that could cover a lot more. And the guide is for facilitators who are doing the program. What happened was they got funding to develop and not funding to program test, but they started getting a lot of requests for the curriculum. So LA Family Law Court was printing them out and distributing them to people, but they got too many requests and they couldn't afford it. So I said, well, what am I going to do? I still do training on it. And they said, sell it for the price that it costs you with your time and the cost to print them off. So that's what is back there. So let me just talk a little bit about it. The philosophy of the program, and we would talk about that in the first session, but let me talk about some of the things we suggest to facilitators of the parenting program. One is that they have book tables and articles and things out for parents who are coming into the program. So there's a lot of resources for them. And then resource lists for those parenting, which is not usually what parenting programs, I think, do, but we think it's important to have that out there. In addition, there's homework at the end of every chapter, and that homework builds on the next chapter. So the beginning of each session includes a discussion of the homework because we want people to practice. When we do the 52-week perpetrators program, part of the idea in 52 weeks is that people get to practice and maybe internalize some of the things that they're doing. So that's part of it. Before they actually come into the program, we suggest a pre-program intake, and to use as much collateral data as you can. So for instance, if you have access, and I do this, part of the reason we suggested this is I do this in my perpetrators program. If in fact you have access to where the victim is the partner of the person in your group, that you interview that person either in person or by phone if you can, so that you get sort of the story in the new revised edition of the story, and you have a context to start looking at dangerousness. And so we're suggesting that in terms of the parenting curriculum as well, because you may not know who you're getting in a group, and it may help for you to have that information. So we suggest, for instance, that you call the partner if you have access to the partner's number. If you have access to police reports, if there are police reports, that you use those, and that any other data that you would have to sort of know who you're dealing with.